And great to be back at the campus and speak on this. First of all, I'm just happy that our session did not get cut off because profitability तो ज़्यादातर के लिए यही हो जाता है कि in a startup world, I was like कि अच्छा product हो जाएगा, people हो जाएगा, लग रहा profitability कट जाएगा, लेकिन नहीं, good, I am happy that we are finally talking about it. So again, I'll give you a quick brief about the company Innovaccer that I founded. So it's a vertical SaaS company. As a vertical SaaS company, we work with healthcare, primarily in the US. And again, from a stage perspective, we are Series F funded. We actually ended last year with a revenue of $140 million odd, so pretty scaled up from that perspective. We started in the year 2016. So it was after a few years passing out from the college. Now, if I have to think about the journey at Innovaccer, I would divide it into three parts. The first part was the 0 to 1 journey, which was about finding what is our product market fit, and we had multiple pivots before we could land on this. So we started as a horizontal layer platform. We started and we have always have been a B2B company. So not a B2C, a B2B, a hardcore B2B enterprise grade software company, right? So we started servicing customers in India. From India, matlab, like paying power is a little lesser. So we transitioned to the US. We were industry agnostic. Finally, we stumbled upon healthcare, and within healthcare, then we scaled up. So it's a journey that from 2016 to 2018, was the 0 to 1, and we were at $1 million in 2017, and so that's the first part, and I'll not spend too much time on the pivots and everything because that's not the intent of this discussion. The second journey was growth at all cost, which kicked in from, let's say, somewhere around 2018 till 2022 Q2, and there's a very interesting story that I had. It's about one of the pitches that we were making for a Series D as in Delta, Series D funding, and it was with it would have been good if the VC community was here earlier. They left, but it was, I'll not name it, but you can guess it is one of the banks that is not hard, so you know who am I referring to. But we were making the pitch to them about investment in the company and what have you, and the entire conversation went like this. So we were like, हाँ मतलब $30 million का burn है हम लोगों का, and 3 साल के हिसाब से 100 million की funding and what all we were looking for, and they are like कि अच्छा फिर तो ambition छोटा है and we were like कि नहीं यार मतलब revenue तो बढ़ रहा है and what have you. So 2018 to 2021, not just for us, but the globally was a phenomena when capital was very cheap, and the amount of funding that you needed was like, again, two factors. A, जितना ज़्यादा आपका burn होगा उतना ज़्यादा venture capital पैसा डाल सकता है और उतने ज़्यादा आपका valuation होगा. So it was like a recursive cycle. कि when we heard that comment कि नहीं वो तो छोटा burn है, तो हमने कहा कि अच्छा 2 दिन दो आप, अभी वापस आते हैं तो 30 का 300 कर दिया तो वो तो यार एक्सेल में कितना टाइम लगता है करने में, right? So the moral of the story being, it was growth at all cost. It was कि यार कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता, खर्चा करो जो करना है, लेकिन your growth should be. Now that did help us कि from like whatever $4-5 million in revenue, we grew something like 80%, 90% year over year, and अच्छी तरीके से growth हुआ. But the challenging aspect of that was कि as the growth was coming in, like हमारा burn rate भी बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया था, right? Like just to give you a sense, 2022 में our burn was roughly, we were burning $85 million a year, which is a very, very big kind of burn rate. And we did have enough capital in the bank कि हाँ 4 साल चल जाएंगे अभी from a burn perspective. But in 2022 came in the third leg of the journey. And that journey, which I say is the balanced growth, and which is actually the title of the conversation also I want to have. So we went the 0 to 1, then the second was growth at all cost, and growth at all costs se fir transition hua into what we call it as the balanced growth. Now what is balanced growth, right? So not for any fault of ours, but in the entire ecosystem, US Fed rate, as we are aware, बढ़ गए, right? The moment US Fed rate increased, what that meant is that the era of free capital was no longer existent. Kyunki, like for obvious reasons, somebody will put it in a risk-free kind of a return and still get 4-5% with the US Feds, तो कोई startup में क्यों डालेगा, right? So for your net present value and all those kind of stuff. Moral of the story, 2022 में the going stance ended up being कि if you are not profitable, it doesn't matter whether you have capital or not, आपको कोई पैसा देगा ही नहीं, right? So that became a third part of the journey, which was कि हाँ ठीक है, growth अच्छा है, लेकिन at all cost does not make sense. It has to be balanced, and that's where we learned a new terminology, which was rule of 40. Now, rule of 40 said that, okay, you know what, it's a summation of two things, which is आपका growth rate कितना है year over year plus amount of EBITDA that you are generating. So let's say if you are growing whatever 80% year over year, but you are burning 80%, तो आपका rule of 40 पे 80 minus 80 0 हो जाएगा. सिमिलरली अगर आपका अगर 40% ग्रोथ रेट है लेकिन आप 20% ही कैश बर्न करके दिखा रहे हो तो आपका 20 आ जाएगा. एंड व्हाट इमीडिएटली केम इनटू पिक्चर वाज कि रूल ऑफ 40 पे only the companies which are 40 or more aspirationally or are over there are only the companies that will be long term sustainable. So this started in Q3 of 2022, which is like what, 6 quarters back, and immediately the transition happened कि अच्छा ठीक है आप cost cutting करो and bring it back. Now as a startup founder who pretty much has been focused कि यार growth at all cost and people, I think that became a very very challenging part of the entire equation. I think somewhere along the line, even at being that scale, even we had most of the other startups and companies had forgotten that profitability is the key why you exist in the business, because if you are losing money, that is bad. मतलब I'll let that sink in. the अगर आपका स्टार्टअप पैसे नहीं बना रहा है एट द एंड ऑफ द डे, विच इज़ बॉटम लाइन, देन यू विल नॉट एग्जिस्ट इन बिजनेस. आई थिंक दैट फैक्ट नॉट ओनली फॉर द फाउंडिंग टीम बट द एंटायर मैनेजमेंट टीम, वी हैड टू ड्रिल सो डीप इन टू ईच वन ऑफ अस. एंड वंस दैट गॉट ड्रिल डाउन, देन वी स्टार्टेड अ लॉट ऑफ एक्शन इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि अच्छा ठीक है, अब यूनिट मेट्रिक को देखो डिटेल में जाके, वेयर आर यू बर्निंग कैश, हाउ कैन you reduce the sales and marketing. Maybe you will have to take certain actions that, okay, you know what, growth rate profile 70% की जगह घटा के 60% कर लो, 50% कर लो, लेकिन आपका burn rate profile कम होगा. So I think the third part of the journey that we undertook 6 quarters back to where we are today, where we are break even, I think has been a very, very kind of a deeply enriching experience for the company. And जब आप एक बार प्रॉफिटेबल हो जाते हो, द अमाउंट ऑफ सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस दैट यू गेट एज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इज़ इनकम्पेरेबल. क्योंकि उससे पहले आपको लगता है कि यार कि अगर इन्वेस्टर ने पैसा नहीं डाला, ये नहीं हुआ, तो आपका कल क्या होगा किसी को पता नहीं है. लेकिन वंस यू स्टार्ट जनरेटिंग कैश, देन प्रीटी मच यू कैन कंटिन्यू फॉर एज लॉन्ग एज पॉसिबल, कंटिन्यू टू ग्रो एंड ऑल दोज काइंड ऑफ स्टफ. सो अगेन फ्रॉम अ प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी परस्पेक्टिव, आई थिंक इट वॉज अ वेरी हार्ड लर्निंग फॉर अस in terms of why it is so important, but in hindsight it was the best learning. And I think in future जो बीच वाला phase हो गया था, growth at all cost, unless it is some miracle that happens or you are in an early stage, most of us need to understand, learn and grasp कि profitability is key. आपका unit metric should support it and you should drive towards it. So yeah.